Tonight we conclude our series of interviews with candidates in tomorrow's election for Boston City Council. Our guest is running for re-election in District 4, a seat held for the past 32 years. The district includes parts of Dorchester, Mattapan, Rosendale, and Jamaica Plain. We'd like to welcome Charles Yancey. Thank you very much for being with us.
Well, Chris, thank you for inviting me once again. I look forward to this every election year. Have a chance to sit down with Chris Levitt. We're very excited about the campaign, and one of the reasons I'm on your program today is just to remind people to go to the polls. We had a very disastrous outcome on September 8th when only 7% of the registered voters bothered to go to the polls. So we're pushing very hard, knocking on thousands of doors, encouraging people to exercise their right to vote.
This is not the first time you had a challenger in the district, but how did this happen? Was somebody just not watching this, or what?
Well, it is true. I was preoccupied with my work as a city councilor, and we had dozens of hearings, mostly with the Post-Audit and Oversight Committee, in addition to the Ways and Means Committee hearings, looking at the $2.8 billion budget and making sure that people throughout the city of Boston, particularly District 4, were being well served. Well, while I was doing that, someone was out knocking on doors and campaigning against me, which is fine. We had made a very conscious decision since September 8th to devote most of our time talking to our constituents and voters and urging them to go to the polls tomorrow, November 3rd.
You know, sometimes people criticize you for coming up with ideas that you don't get other people to buy into, but this year I did see one exception, at least, and that's about body cameras worn by the police. Yes. And you got this hearing together, some great, very thoroughly researched testimony.
Yes, it was a very successful hearing held on August 5th. My opponent didn't show up at the hearing, incidentally, to invite the police commissioner and other interested parties, and of course the community, to state their opinion about whether or not we should require our police officers to wear body cameras. And the testimony was unanimous on the part of community residents. They want the body cameras. They want to level the playing field. They want to make sure that if there is an incident, there's a video record of it. That could serve to help the police as well as anyone who feels aggrieved by police action.
Also concerned about how much community input there is in developing a pilot program. How much difference does a district city councilor make around that?
Well, the topic would not have even been discussed if we didn't introduce it. And the mayor and the police commissioner now are working on a pilot program, which should take place even before we pass the ordinance requiring it. And we encourage the administration to do that. They're going in the right direction. But we have to move into the 21st century. This is a piece of equipment that's been around for a long time, almost as long as dash cameras, which we learned at the hearing were not being used routinely by our police vehicles, and that also should change.
I want to ask you about a difference of opinion about charter school expansion. I wouldn't say it's 180 degrees here, but there is a difference, at least in tone, between what you're saying and what your challenger is saying.
Well, I think it is a very distinct difference. I do not support lifting of the cap. Charter schools have a place. You can use it for some experimentation, use it as a laboratory, develop what may be perceived as best practices, but they were never intended to supplant the Boston public school system. Lifting the cap really threatened to create privatization of education in the city of Boston. And I think that would be disastrous for the Boston public schools, but more importantly for the school children. We educate more than 57,000 children. If you withdraw resources from the school system, things are not going to get better.
Well, in this district, you've got some widely admired charter schools, and you also have some district schools that have been underperforming for a long time now. There's got to be people out there that are saying they're fed up with that. They need something quick. They just can't wait another decade or so.
Yes. So we should make the investments in the Boston public schools. We're talking about one district. It's not 9 district schools in the city of Boston, even though my opponent talks as if we have 9 different districts. The reality is that we have one Boston public school system. And my concern is, I'm concerned with many of the policies of the Boston public school system, and I did not support the current assignment plan. I think there should be more choice on the part of all parents. But I do not want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. And I think by lifting the cap on charters, you threaten the education of more than 57,000 Boston public school system. We simply can't afford to do that. We don't have the luxury of disinvesting from the Boston public schools, and that's what would be represented by lifting the cap.
Now, in this election here, I'm sure we've gotten to the point where people are wondering about the commitment of either candidate to this district, whether in terms of how long they've lived there, or in your case, I'm thinking back a couple of years ago, you decided to run for mayor, which is fine. A lot of people like to move up, great people.
Yes.
But you also decided to put your name on the ballot for District 4 again. And you know, I'm sure that might have minimized the pool of quality candidates to run for that seat. I mean, doesn't that send a mixed message about your...
For which seat?
For District 4.
Oh, absolutely not.
Isn't that a mixed message to the district?
Not at all. My commitment is to serve the people of Boston. And I've lived up to that commitment. We've achieved quite a bit. Before I was elected, we didn't even have a police station in our district. We built the station on corner of Morton and Blue. We didn't have the Mattapan Branch Library, which is one of the most technologically advanced branch libraries in the city of Boston. We didn't have the Mildred Avenue Community Center, which was financed by a loan out I got passed in the city council. We didn't have the Gallivan Community Center. We didn't have the crossing gate legislation that requires that crossing gate on every Boston public school bus. And I could go on and on and on. No, it just, you know, as it happens, I have more experience in city government than any of the candidates for mayor. And today, there's a new Speaker of the House in the United States Congress. He was a candidate for Vice President of the United States. At the same time, he was running for his congressional district seat. I don't think the fact that he was running for Vice President and for a member of Congress was contradictory any more than I see my run 2 years ago. Although novel, it certainly was legal, and as it happens, the people decided they'd rather have me as a city councilor than mayor, which is fine. I am just honored to serve the people of Boston.
Yeah, but there weren't that many people to pick from either.
When?
When you ran for city council, I mean...
No, that's not true. We have 4 candidates. And they were decent candidates, qualified candidates, actually have more experience of community service than my current challenger.
I want to ask you about one other issue that I'm sure is affecting even this district, and that's the cost of housing.
Yes. People
being displaced. Is there a role for the council in giving people faced with that displacement more protection?
Well, certainly. I have always supported efforts to protect tenants. I believe that there should be just cause eviction. People should not be forced out of their home for illegitimate reasons. And I am, quite frankly, a supporter of rent control, and we know that rent control was voted out by a statewide referendum, even though the people of Boston supported maintaining it. I believe that we should work very hard to increase the supply of affordable and low-income housing. And we've been very successful over the years to build new housing in District 4, particularly on the grounds of the Boston State Hospital site. Yes, the site where we're going to build a new high school, but we have a state biologic lab, we have the Nature Center, and hundreds of new housing units. We also have the Hearth building, which provides shelter and housing for formerly homeless individuals. We need to duplicate that throughout the city of Boston.
Thank you very much for being with us.
Well, thank you, Chris, and thank you for this opportunity to remind people that they should vote for someone they know they can trust with a strong history, and urge all of our voters to go to the polls tomorrow, November 3rd, and thank you very much for your support.
Running for re-election, City Councilor Charles Yancey. In a moment, the people and families that make the neighborhood will talk about a reception this week for the Roxbury Legacy Project.